foot hole. Now that clearly means that the object has gone through 6 layers of reinforced concrete, each 1.5 feet.
No, I've read about this. This is a cruise missile attack, right? I've read the conspiracy criticism.
So that is evidence consistent with the cruise missile attack.
Which begats any kind of belief, doesn't it, that the Americans would launch a cruise missile? From what vehicle?
Well, clearly they had to be fired by the American military again, because it wouldn't have got through the Pentagon's automated anti-missile defence system if it wasn't sending out a friendly fire signal.
There again, a friend of mine, and not a friend of a friend of mine, an actual friend of mine, watched the plane crashing into the Pentagon, because his office, his TV production company, is above it, and he watched the entire thing happen. I don't know whether he's been used.
If he hasn't actually come forward as a witness, because there are no witnesses of an actual plane going into the Pentagon. Lots of people talking about planes nearby, but then again, look at the expert witnesses. The people at the nearby airport, Washington Airport, the air traffic controllers are absolutely convinced that what they saw heading towards the Pentagon was either a very small military plane or a missile. And of course, they see civilian jet airliners day in, day out.
A couple of things I wanted to... Can I bring it back for Litvinenko? I mean, we could go on all night about this, couldn't we? Why... Because one of the puzzles is, why would you use these alpha emitter type things? Why polonium-210? Was it known, for instance, of the rather extraordinary and hideous illness that he would suffer as a result, and death was inevitable? What message, what clues do we read into the chosen method of killing?
Yeah. Well, I'd say if it was the Russian intelligence services, they would use the usual method. And we know that in the past, the KGB have used
so you
rolled up newspapers, you shoot something up somebody's nose, you're walking past them, and you don't even see the person doing it, they then almost instantly die of a heart attack. This is a drug that's very difficult to trace, and so anybody then accused, of course, of saying that person was bumped off by the Russians, you can turn around and say, conspiracy theorist, he only died of a heart attack.
Right.
So what this has clearly been done for, I think one thing is to discourage other people from blowing the whistle on false flag terrorism, but also to string the whole thing out. If it had just been done very quickly, it would be in the press for a couple of days, then it would all disappear. But because it was a very slow and involved death, we have the picture of this man day in, day out, on our TV screens, in the newspapers, and this is designed again to inflame British public opinion and perhaps create a new Cold War between Britain and Russia, or possibly even a Third World War, I don't know.
The problem is that I think we all... I know there's a lot of respectable opinion that now believes that this wasn't the Soviet, I say Soviet, it gives my age away, a Russian government plot.
No, it wasn't a Russian government plot. It might have been rogue elements within the FSB, but David says not to that.
I think we all want to...
I
think we all want to think that it's not an official government thing. I don't really want to get into a row with a bunch of guys with rusty nukes, the electronics made by Lada. It's not really something we want to even consider. So I think it suits us all to think that it's mucky business amongst oligarchs in London.
Do you reflect on why conspiracy theories and theorists enjoy a lot of passion, if not a massive audience?
I think it's part of a continuum that starts with apocalyptic theories of all kinds. It's always been smart to believe in apocalyptic theories. Now, the problem, I mean, all the smart money is on man-made global warming, for example, being a real thing, and that it really is going to kill us all. If it does, this is great, but it will, well, it's not great, it's terrible, but it will mean this will be the first time mankind has ever got something right about his own future, something considerable right. So it may well be the case, and there is reason to believe we are capable, for the first time in our 10,000-year history as Homo sapiens, for the first time we are capable of predicting something of that magnitude. But it's kind of unlikely, because if you look at the people who were predicting global warming back in 1975, they were predicting global cooling. And it's all a bit worrisome. There is something in the intelligentsia, middle-class, educated mind which loves conspiracy, horror story, apocalypse, and all these...
Well, is it, David, because it's unexplainable, actually. We don't get satisfactory answers to a lot of these mysteries.
And we find that
we find that frustrating. So
we find it I'm saying we find it satisfying. We enjoy mysteries and doom-laden predictions, and this is and the middle class have always done this. They've always loved it. They'd latch on some lunatic like Nostradamus.
But if we took it all at face value, with all due respect to David and his views here, we'd be petrified, wouldn't we?
Yeah. No, but I'm saying that we enjoy that.
This is the opportunity to change the world, because 9/11 is so easy to expose. as the official story certainly being wrong, and I believe as an inside job, that's the only conclusion you can come to when you see a missile somehow hitting the Pentagon and getting through this automated anti-missile defence system, that this actually gives us hope. This is a way in which we can expose these people and expose this evil for once and for all. Because 9/11 was an inside job, but this is not unusual. It's not the exception to the rule. You've only got to look at what Kermit Roosevelt says about what was going on in Iran with Mossadegh. He now says in his memoirs, and this has been backed up by Freedom of Information documents, that the Americans were carrying out terrorist attacks in the Middle East and blaming it on Mossadegh so they could topple the Mossadegh regime. That is now a matter of public record from the Freedom of Information Act. And I think the same sort of thing will happen about 9/11. But because of the internet now, of course, we can share this information much more quickly. And the reason that people are interested in so-called conspiracy theory is the fact that the facts are there. There is incontrovertible proof that buildings were brought down
with
by...
respect, and I know we haven't got time to go into every detail. We haven't made the connection, have we? You've proposed a radical and some might say irrational political logic for doing this.
But I haven't had a chance to explain it fully.
Well, I know, we haven't had time. But you've then said there are unexplainable facets we know about the investigation and the state of the buildings and so forth. But you haven't joined the two up.
Well, I think what we have in the sense that we've said that all we can ever say anything is given the situation we have in terms of being able to investigate stuff, is what is more likely. And it's far more likely that elements of the American state were able to get in the Twin Towers and plant all these explosives and bring them down than it was Al-Qaeda could. The same thing about...
Did the American state book the planes? Fly the planes?
Well, this is the interesting thing about the planes. FAA records, Federal Aviation Authority records, show that Flight 11 and Flight 77 didn't even take off that day. And where's all the CCTV footage of these hijackers in the airports? There's no CCTV footage being released of them in the airports where the planes took off.
So I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but the shot, the iconic shot, which is emblazoned in all our minds, those of us that were around that day and were reporting that day, of planes hitting the tower, how do you explain that?
Well, I would say to anybody, look at that footage, slow it down, and come to your own conclusions. But I very firmly believe that what you're seeing there is not consistent with the damage of a plane going into a building. But people have got to make their own minds up.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that. What do you mean? There was a plane or there was not a plane?
I would say to people, look at all the footage, yeah, from all the angles, and see how that plane goes into the building.
Every angle shows an aeroplane hitting the building.
It shows an aeroplane, it shows something melting into a building, not hitting a building. When a plane would hit a building like that, you would expect to see the wings start to fracture. You'd expect to see explosions when the engines, which are full of fuel, hit the building. You'd expect to see blowbacks of parts coming back off the thing. But when when you slow it down, you actually see a plane melt into the building, then you see the explosion once it's inside.
You'll be aware of the offence that some people will take.
Well, I'm not in the business of defending anybody. I'm trying to get the truth.
To the people who lost their lives.
No, I want justice for those people. Because if I'm right, and I believe I am, that the elements of the American government were responsible for this, then we have so far not had justice. And it's not just justice for those people who were killed on that day, it's also justice for the 650,000 people who were killed in Iraq as a result of that invasion predicated on 9/11, essentially. And the same with the innocent who died in Afghanistan. All of those people have suffered an enormous injustice, and the best way to bring this bogus war on terror to an end is to expose 9/11 for the lie that it is.
Jonathan, we'll have to ramp our conversation here. We were going to spend a bit of time talking about the moon. We'll have to do that another time. Let me just check. Well, you guys believe we did go to the moon, right?
Yeah.
I know there's a conspiracy there about the flag.
No,
and
you're not
the
wrong. I have no problems with the moon, no problems with...
no problems with going back,
I've got no problems with 9/11. I think it was probably... I think Princess Diana died because she didn't have a seatbelt on, I'm afraid.
Well, I think,
and I think the obvious answer to 9/11 is probably the correct one.
Okay.
Doesn't make the story any less interesting, but it's
Indeed. Well, at least we've had a chance to expose it. Thank you very much for being with us.